Look, up in the sky. It's a bird.
It's a plane.
It's
The Bitchspot Report. Welcome to the Bitchspot Report, the conservative atheist podcast that's not afraid to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Every week, your hosts, Cephas and Mike, will take on the latest religious and political news and examine the world around us from a distinctly conservative and skeptical perspective. Join us now for this episode of the Bitchspot Report. This is episode 66 of the Bitchspot Report podcast. We're actually 2/3 of the way to being fully evil. This time around, we're going to do an all-news story show, and we're going to look at Christian hyperbole, the Supreme Court's decision on a mosque, atheists being blind to demonic possession, the Southern Baptist continuing path of self-destruction, and the recent Las Vegas shooters that were actually religious conspiracy nuts. Plus, 800 babies in a septic tank. What more do you expect from Catholicism? Stick around, this one ought to be fun. So, have you been having a fun day today?
Actually, not too bad. It's been one of those weird days. Got some good news. My mom's going to be let out of the nursing home. She'll be home. She'll be doing her rehab, but she'll be out of that place and back in her familiar surroundings. So that's cool. Work's going pretty good. I'm just trying to think what else that is good to happen today. But there's like a general weirdness. I was following this guy on my email, and I don't understand what they were arguing about, because it was all about fructose and how it metabolizes in the body, and there was a lot of medical terms being thrown around. And I'm reading this stuff, and I'm like, the one guy that was trying to say that fructose is bad, it was almost like, I want to say stuff like, he gish-galloped. He doesn't believe in studies, things like that. And I'm like, and you call yourself a skeptic? You know, it's like you don't go to the source information, and you reject it because it's in a medical journal. If you're basing your argument on what you believe, that's not really a good foundation.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But then the fun part was that the state of Michigan decided to tear up a big section of a bridge and spent an hour driving 7 miles.
Yeah.
Michigan, that's all I've been hearing besides the stuff that's going on in Detroit and the bankruptcy, and the GM stuff. The roads are so tore up in Michigan that they're trying to find emergency funds to fix the roads. I thought Illinois was bad. And I'm kind of used to shitty roads. California was much better, I would say. North Carolina had beautiful roads. But you get into the Midwest, definitely around Chicago, it's pretty brutal. But driving around here, there's sinkholes. I guess a big sinkhole opened up about a month ago in Detroit. All sorts of nasty stuff. And the roads are just, I've started noticing it. It wasn't really bad. Like I said, I'm used to bad roads and driving on bad roads. Apparently these people aren't, because they'll come to full stops. They'll juke across lanes to avoid, whatever, when the rubber comes out between the concrete, they'll juke around that, all sorts of crazy stuff. I don't know. You only remember the bad stuff. The good stuff today, I almost forgot about it. That's why I had to say it first before I forget.
Yeah. Well, this week we're actually recording a day early because I've got a meeting tomorrow, which was supposed to be today. And, last Friday, they emailed me and say, oh yeah, we're going to change the meeting to Wednesday. It's like, all right, yeah, no problem. Didn't even think about it. And then late night, Saturday night, it's like, oh shit. That's going to get in the way of recording, isn't it? So luckily we got to change it. Otherwise it's like I'd be sitting in a meeting tomorrow going, I know there's something I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah. And you're lucky. I have no life, so I could be on the air anytime, any place, within reason.
Yeah, well, I try to schedule my time around the podcast, and usually I can do that, but it's like, just out of the blue, they had to change the meeting, and nobody asks me my opinion, so they just do their thing.
Right.
It's like, and it didn't even occur to me when I said, oh yeah, 3:00 on Wednesday. Sure. No problem. I can do that. That's no problem at all. Oh, fuck. They should ask me, really.
Do you expect any more or any less?
No, not really. Yeah. But luckily we're pretty flexible. And then like today when you emailed me and it said, oh yeah, I'm stuck in traffic and it's going to be a while. And we're recording an hour late now.
Yeah.
It's like, oh great. Are we just going to have to skip the show this week because we can't record on any of the days that we actually have available? But we muddle through as best we can.
We do our best.
Yeah. And you were talking about, not really understanding the things you're reading about people or from people. I'm really starting to get that way about a lot of social media. I mean, I've never really understood Facebook. I mean, I've never understood the appeal and that kind of stuff. Where you're running around friending people and all this other bullshit and watching all the crap that they're talking about go by. Because let's be really honest, I don't give a shit one about what most of these people say anyway. And the same thing is true on Tumblr, and the same thing is true on Twitter. I mean, Twitter is the worst. I really don't understand this shit, especially when you're talking about Tumblr and Twitter, where you're just sitting there watching all this crap go by from all the people that you're following, and 99% of it is complete and utter crap. I don't even pay attention to Twitter anymore. I go in, it's like, oh look, I've got like 7,000 things in my timeline. Click. I'm not going to read any of it. Do you pay any attention to yours?
Twitter, not a lot. I might check it out to make sure that my announcements went out for my show, but that's about the most I've been using it. I thought about getting more into it, but it's like, I actually like to use it to find stories or find ideas, but I found myself doing it more on Facebook and Google Plus than Twitter, because it's almost like, I'll have 100 messages, and it's really the same stuff I've been putting on there. It's like, new show out, blah, 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 blah. People saying, check this out, check this show out, check this page out, check whatever. So I've actually kind of strayed away from Twitter. I don't use Tumblr. I thought about looking at, or at least using Reddit. I don't want to officially join it or join into it. I just want, again, for material. So I kind of been sticking mostly to Facebook and, Google Plus. And actually I think Google Plus is getting more attention than Facebook, because I seem to be able to do more on Google Plus. Plus, I mean, I've got my website, my show, it's all wired in, so it'll automatically send out to everything. So, like I said, I'll just check everything out, make sure the messages go out. The Google Hangouts have been cool, so we've been using that for the Irreverent Skeptics, and, so that's pretty much my go-to site now. Facebook second. And again, I think I use it just to get stories and getting ideas. And that's probably about the most I use it for.
Yeah, I mean, I only use Google Plus for the communities, and those are even really dirt effing slow. I mean, most of the time it's like you go in there and like, oh great, here's this community with 50,000 people in it, and there's maybe 2 messages a day. Right. And you're just going, what the hell? What's the purpose of this at all? And I mean, I was even thinking, like on Tumblr, okay? I've been following Will Wheaton. Now, I like Will as a human being, but holy shit, 80% of his fucking output is shit that would come straight out of Atheism Plus. He's a huge feminist dumb fuck. And I'm really getting to the point where the amount of crap that he's putting out about radical feminism and all this other bullshit and men are all rapists and crap like that vastly outweighs all the kind of cool geeky crap he might talk about. Right. It's like, I don't want to talk to you people. I'll go find something interesting that you said sometime instead of having to find all this verbal online vomit that you've got going all over all of your feeds. I don't care about this stuff.
Yeah. Fortunately, I'm fairly selective on the groups I join in on, and I do notice that a lot of them that I am in, I don't see a message. Rarely ever see a message, so I might just drop out of them just because, nothing's happening. There's at least 100 people in most of these, and if there's nothing coming out, why am I chewing up bandwidth to check it out? There is a group on Google Plus. There are 3 members. It's a secular conservative group, and there's 3 of us, and nobody has ever said a word in the entire thing. And I don't know why I sit in there. I think I do it just because I'm stubborn, but me and the owner said something once, and it's like, oh, I started this to see what would happen, and nothing ever happened. It's like, okay.
You're right. Nothing's ever happening.
Right. But then there are a couple of groups that are pretty active, so it's some pretty cool stuff. And, I think it's more hit or miss, get out of it what you put into it or what, like I said, I use it mostly for material. There's some jokes that comes by. I do like the Reverend Skeptics group. They seem to always have good stuff and they're always, good information. There's smart people in it too. I mean, like real people in it, not these fake, these wannabes, there's a couple, but that's, they get shot down real quick.
Yeah.
And it's kind of fun watching them do that.
Well, see, my problem is, and this is just because I'm older and I'm sure the kids on my lawn, think completely differently, but most of these groups are just filled with people who are just throwing up memes and, just, especially like Twitter, but it's true everywhere, is that they'll just throw out their stupid picture with a few words on it and it'll get retweeted 75,000 times. It's like, that's not what I want to see. I want to see actual content, not just some cheap picture that you stuck a couple of words on and you think that somehow means something meaningful.
Right.
I hate that. I'd like to wipe memes off the internet completely. It's like, Jesus, guys, put a little effort into it.
Right. Yeah. I don't have much more to say on social media. It's cool. It's, like I said, I get a lot of good information and actually, I probably would never have known that Rick Mayhall passed away this week. This week? Or was it last week? I heard that, and then today, I think they said, Rue McClanahan died, one of the Golden Girls.
Yeah.
She died. So I'm going, okay, there's two. What'll be the third one? Please let it be Pat Robertson. Please let it be Pat Robertson.
Yeah, we're not that lucky.
No. Ken Ham.
Yeah. Well, see, I don't pay any attention to who dies because people tend to do that, and I really don't care. I don't know these people. If they die, they die. I don't pay any attention to it. All the people who are out there doing their ghoul pools and stuff couldn't care less.
Yeah.
People live or die every day, whatever.
Right. Well, it's just, like with me, I was a big fan of the young ones, and Rick Mayhall was fantastic in that show. So, and that's where I first heard of the guy, and he's done a lot of good, a lot of comedy. He was a British comedian. I think he's even done some serious stuff. So it's kind of like, I want to say like an unsung hero amongst world actors, so it was kind of sad to see him go. And Rue McClanahan, but it was like, it was just two, now maybe three, maybe Pat Robertson, please.
Do we get to vote?
I vote.
I vote Pat Robertson.
Yeah.
And if you will forgive my use of this expression, hurt the bitch.
I'm kind of the same too. There's when an actor goes, unless there's some connection, something I like his work, whatever. Yeah, I might acknowledge it, but some of these others, it's like, who?
Well, yeah, as far as I'm concerned, how many millions of people die around the world every day? What does it matter if I've ever heard of this person before? I'm not going to go out and mourn millions of people. Why would I mourn somebody whose name I've heard before or I've seen in a movie and didn't know to begin with? I'm not going to mourn any of those people. They're dead. Okay. Next.
Yeah.
Welcome to reality.
Right.
I don't know. Well, we should probably get on to the show.
Sure thing.
And now the news.
I'm beginning to think now, are re-education camps next? When are they going to start rolling out the boxcars to start hauling off Christians? At what point do Christians say enough is enough?
I guess when the witch hunt gets very painful or more personal. But I guarantee that we are going to continue to see the witch hunt, and we will continue to see it carried out in the public square. And if they can't get to you in the public square, in other words, if you're not if you don't have as much gravitas as someone like Dan Cathy or Brandon Ike, then they can get you into a civil rights commission or a tribunal.
Every time I think that the religious nuts can't possibly Godwin anymore, they do exactly that. This time out, Tony Perkins, president of the Family Research Council, explained that in light of the recent loss of the discrimination case against a bakery owner who refused to make a cake for a gay wedding, that next they're going to start rolling out the boxcars to start hauling off Christians. Anti-gay activist Brian Fisher said soon they'll have to bow down and pray, "All hail Big Gay, our new slave masters." Now wait a minute. These are people who want everybody to bow down to their imaginary friend, aren't they? What the fuck?
I'm still trying to figure out how you go from baking cakes to gas chambers. I mean, I don't see that. It's like, okay, you might burn the cake. I don't know. I mean,
yeah,
it just amazes me that these guys, they have to be doing this on purpose. It's gotta be, they're purposely trying to juxtapose the poor baker who, or I won't say poor baker, the poor shithead who's got busted for discrimination. How does that turn into a fire the ovens and get the Zyklon B canisters out? I don't see where that connection is. And this is just nothing more than religious fear mongering to scare the people, to scare their people.
Yeah, well, I mean, they're going, hey, you bake cakes in an oven, you cook Jews in an oven. Hey, there's a connection.
Yeah, that must be the lot. And doesn't surprise me logic wise. They don't have it.
Well, I think it's funny that their example, they're trying to argue that it's a bad thing for Christians to be forced to do this when Hitler, acting as a Christian, actually forced gays and Jews and gypsies into the oven in the first place. So that was their guy.
Yeah. Pot and kettle.
Well, yeah, but they won't acknowledge that at all. And I'm sure we're supposed to take this as hyperbole, but holy shit. I mean, do these idiots actually believe that we're going to run trains of Christians off to a new Auschwitz or something? I think some of them really believe this.
Actually, I think some of the stories we'll go through, I mean, they'll believe in anything. Yeah, there's like this Tony Perkins guy, apparently when this guy talks, people listen, this is supposed to be a guy that is, a leader within this group, and people will buy into it. It's really, scaring the rank and file to bend to your will. And you're talking almost like a little Adolf Hitler here.
Yeah.
Might means right. We need to, whatever, send the gays to the gas chamber. I don't know. It's just the logic, well, the lack thereof. I don't know. It's just stupidity. I mean, these guys just don't get, they don't get it. They just really just don't get it. And the more I'm hoping people realize how, the stupid stuff that comes out of these people's mouths, there's gotta be some consequence, and someone's gotta say, this guy's an idiot. Well, what the fuck is he talking about? This guy lost his discrimination case. He discriminated against a gay couple. It's clear and simple. Move on. Deal with it.
Yeah, but these people think that their religious beliefs should allow them to violate the law. And they're pushing laws that say exactly that. We keep talking about places where you can discriminate against gays because you're religious. And I'm sure those same laws will allow you to discriminate against minorities and women and other religions and all this other stuff. That's what these people want. Of course, they don't want these laws to apply to anybody but Christians. So only the Christians get to discriminate against everybody else. If another religion came by and discriminated against them, these people would be screaming bloody murder.
Yeah. Sig Heil.
Yeah. Bunch of fucking hypocrites.
Pretty much, yeah.
If they could get away with building the ovens, I'm sure they would.
Yeah.
Some of these crazy people like this anyway. But we have actually quite a few of those stories this week, so why don't we get on to the next one?
Yeah. Okay. This is, from the Washington Post Religion. Murfreesboro mosque fight laid to rest after Supreme Court ruling. For years, opponents of the Islamic Center of Murfreesboro vowed to take their legal fight to shut down the mosque all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court. That fight ended Monday, June 2nd, when the nation's highest court declined to hear their case. The 4-year conflict over construction of the mosque, which opened in 2012, brought national attention to this Bible Belt city of 112,000, about 30 miles south of Nashville. Hundreds marched in protest after Rutherford County officials approved the plans for the mosque in 2010. Televangelist Pat Robertson labeled the Islamic Center a mega mosque and claimed Muslims are taking over Murfreesboro.
And we call that SM like it's some wonderful experience in their magazines with these whips and chains and leather gloves and belts and what have you.
An arsonist set fire to construction equipment on the building site. They eventually file a suit against Rutherford County, the opponents, seeking to block construction of the worship space. And this basically was a fight. They fought over, let's see, there was the anti-Muslim movement in Tennessee fueled the fight. Mosque foes asserted that First Amendment guarantees of religious freedom did not apply to the mosque. In court, Joe Brandon Jr., a lawyer for mosque foes, says Islam is not a religion, and he argued that the mosque is a threat to the community.
What an asshole.
Okay, Tennessee, someone building a mosque. Yeah, I think that's going to create some tension.
Yeah, well, I think it's funny that our buddy Pat Robertson says, oh, it's a mega mosque. It's a mega church. We can't allow it. Well, holy fuck. There are 67 churches in Tennessee that fit the definition for a mega church. And they're not arguing about those. They're just anti-Muslim.
Yeah, this is clearly an assault on Islam. I don't expect any more or any less out of Tennessee. Definitely, this lawyer who claims it's not a religion. Then why are you fucking worried about it? Let them build their building then. So it's not a religion. Why fight it then? It just seems there's just such levels of stupidity going on here, and maybe it was a good thing that the Supreme Court didn't want to touch that one. I mean, it just sounds like a lot of stupid people fighting over something that, if it didn't say mosque, but said, Baptist church or, whatever, there wouldn't have been this outrage. It's all focused against the Muslims, that they want a place to worship. It's probably the only one they're making an assumption that's the only one in Tennessee, but one of the few. And all the effort and all that stuff that was wasted fighting this thing. It's just stupid all around.
Well, that's what you expect. But I think it's really kind of funny when you look at this, that the traditionally right-wing Christians are the ones fighting against the Constitution. Yeah. And the Muslims, who traditionally the right-wing characterized as anti-American, they're the ones that are thankful that the Constitution is doing its job.
Yes. That's another good point in this article. Yeah. Oh, that pesky Constitution, when we build our churches, it protects us. If someone else builds a church, it's our enemy,
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Well, I think it's funny that now the Christians, now that they can't fight against the mosque opening, now they're trying to stop them from putting a cemetery on the grounds, and they're going to sue to stop that.
Yeah.
Now, then they'll sue to stop parking. I mean, they're just going to keep harassing these people as long as they can. And this is just costing the Muslims a lot of money.
Yeah. And dragging
Fuck
it
the
through
stupid
the courts.
Christians.
Yeah.
Yeah, and wasting tax money.
Just so these people can feel righteous.
Yeah, but like we've said before, Tennessee and a lot of these really heavily Christian states, nobody pays taxes because they're all on fucking welfare. So they don't care how much tax money gets wasted because it's not theirs.
Right. Yeah. Or at least they don't understand.
Well, yeah, it's probably that, but.
Education. I mean, that, they understood that when they buy their bottle of whiskey and, their pack of cigarettes and shells for their shotgun and, put a tank of gas in, that's tax money. That's money that's going into some fund somewhere, depending. And more than likely is what's paying for these frivolous lawsuits. And if they knew that, well, of course they don't. I mean, I don't think they can. I mean, it seems like sometimes they can't rub two brain cells together. There's just not enough there to do that. Because that's what I would think. I mean, okay, wait a minute. I'm sorry, I said think. I'm thinking here. I mean, I think if you realize that this stuff costs money and costs, it's taxpayer money, your money, anything involved with the government, fighting this stuff, defending a school that might try to bring creationism or intelligent design. This is tax money that's being wasted fighting these things, and I mean, you're right. I mean, maybe they don't care if they're sitting on welfare and, sucking down Jack Daniels and, shooting highway signs with their shotgun. Yeah, they probably don't really care. It doesn't seem like money out of their pocket, but it is. You pay taxes no matter what you do. You buy something in the store. You fill your tank with gas. You buy tires for your pickup truck. You go and you buy your Confederate flag to hang in the back window of your pickup truck. You pay a tax on that. It's like, do you want that money going to fight a case it's not going to win?
Well, honestly, I really wish in this country we would change the system so that anybody who is found guilty of bringing frivolous lawsuits to the court would be legally required to repay every goddamn penny that the state taxpayers or the federal taxpayers paid for that case.
I would love
so you're going to have to pay for the court time, the judge, all the courtroom people, the attorneys. You're going to have to pay people for wasting their time. And I think you'd stop most of these frivolous lawsuits because you'd have to think, well, shit, if they find out that this is frivolous, I'm on the hook for $1 million. And do it like the IRS does it. Bankruptcy does not save your ass. They'll come after you. If you're on welfare, they will garnish your welfare. There is not one goddamn thing you can do to get out of paying it.
Yeah.
That would be wonderful.
I would love to see that. I know that there's some cases, I've heard some states trying to do that. I don't know. But, I think across the board, you bring a case to court. You have to prove that this is not frivolous. If it's frivolous, you get thrown out. You want it thrown out right away. I wouldn't even have a problem with a pre-hearing on, is this a frivolous case or not? It could just be a judge saying, yeah, you can go with it, or no, it's going to be frivolous. If you want to continue and you don't win, you're going to be on the hook for all the court costs.
Or just have the judge say, all right, in order for this to continue, you need to put up a $100,000 bond immedially.
Yeah.
If you can't do it, case dismissed.
That would be a good idea.
Yeah. But it'll never get done because it makes sense.
Yeah. I keep forgetting. Making sense.
Yeah. I don't know. Well, let's continue.
Let's take a moment and discern the spirits. Here, there's some atheist complainers, and we've been talking about them in this show, and they don't think that they're full of the devil. They don't think there's something inside of them. Oh, these are just our own human choices that we want to make. But I respectfully disagree. Here's a graphic or artist conception of what a demon might look like. But really, how would they know? Because demonic spirits are invisible, how would they know if there's something inside of them because they can't see it? And I'll tell you the way they can know is because they can sense the demonic spirit tempting them to sin.
Seems like the crazies are out in force this week. Now we're off to our old buddy Dr. Chaps, who thinks that Satan has blinded atheists to the fact that they're being possessed by demonic spirits. Yes, we know that's completely circular. We don't know we're possessed because we're possessed, and therefore we can't know we're possessed. Is it any wonder that we think these religious nutjobs have problems?
We don't believe in God, but that also means we don't believe in Satan or demons or any superstitious stuff, so come on, clinger shit.
Yeah.
This guy he's such a work. I love this guy, actually. Just the crap that flows out of his mouth. And, I gotta ask the question, is this guy thinking? Like our buddy Tony Perkins. Don't these people think about what's coming out of their mouths? What is it? I think I see here in the article, 2 Corinthians. That's where he gets this from. I've been getting ready to do a nice second part on the Illuminati, and it's the same stuff. It's just these people that they believe in God, so that means you have to have Satan. Some of these people believe that the Catholic Church is actually a satanic church. The Catholics actually worship Satan, not the Christian God. To me, this is all crazy because there's no God, there's no Satan, there's no demons, there's no angels, there's none of this supernatural crap. This is all make-believe. This is all fairy tales and, wishful thinking. And this guy believes that right around the corner there's Satan and, there's whatever, I don't know what any demons and so on, it's like, come on, you're that afraid of the world, that there's all these, these imaginary boogeymen out to get you or whatever. Come on.
Yeah, but I mean, you have to remember, these are the same people who think that, like, the ACLU and the Freedom from Religion Foundation are actually representatives of Satan on earth. I mean, they honestly believe this. They think that the devil is running these organizations. These people are so completely whacked out of their skulls. You know, and then Dr. Chaps himself, he's a whacked out conspiracy theorist. You have to remember that this dude was thrown out of the Navy because he claims that he refused to stop praying in Jesus' name. Well, this guy was a fucking Navy chaplain. Of course he was praying in Jesus' name all the goddamn time. You know, he was thrown out because he went to a political rally in front of the White House wearing his Navy uniform, which is a complete violation of the Naval Code of Conduct.
Yeah.
But he's too busy out there pointing fingers at everybody else going, well, it wasn't my fault. It was a conspiracy. The devil made me do it. This guy is just a complete dumb shit. And it's funny if you talk to his former supervisor. He said, and I quote, "I found him to be totally untruthful, unethical, and insubordinate. He was and is contemptuous of all authority. The ex-chaplain is a man without honor, and you have accepted his story, and in doing so, you've had the wool pulled over your eyes. Nobody likes this fucker."
Yeah. And what bothers me, he gets a forum. You know, he speaks out. In my opinion, he's not really presenting anything new that I haven't heard before out of guys like Joshua Abraham. There's guys that these people believe that the Illuminati are these they believe all sorts of stuff. Even the Knights, you know, they try to link the Knights Templar and all these things. A lot of Dan Brown type stuff. Graham Hancock. These guys, you know, they put together these really, I mean, it's all make believe. I mean, they just make the shit up whole cloth, and they believe that Satan exists and they're controlling. Well, I think I said on the previous shows that Satan controls the reptiloids, which are supposed to be like, the Queen of England, George Bush, Vladimir Putin, all the major leaders, even Obama is a shape-shifting reptiloid. And they control the gray aliens who kidnap humans for sex experiments. There's this, I don't know, what is this thing? Just because they don't get sex too often, maybe it's just their way of kinky porn. And they believe it. I mean, and then you get guys, well, we'll be talking about one here in a little bit, and they buy it hook, line, and sinker, and they do the crazy shit.
Yeah.
And get this Klinger shit. I mean, he's just another one of these. I would love that the American people would recognize this guy for what he is. He's just a shithead. And,
yeah, but a lot of American people are just shitheads. That's the problem.
And that's the problem. I try to be the optimist on this show, if you haven't figured this out yet. But, I try to be the optimist that there are intelligent people, and there are intelligent people out there. But, but even amongst those who would believe this guy, I mean, I would love to, that someone just call him out. Where do you get this shit? The Bible. Where are you getting, that type of thing, so I don't know.
We know where he gets this shit. He gets it straight out of the Bible. And the fact that he's out there believing this Bronze Age bullshit just proves he's an idiot.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, let's go on to some more idiots.
Okay. Again, from the Washington Post Religion. Southern Baptists meets as membership baptism declines continues. This is from an article on June 4th. For Southern Baptists, it's happened again. Another annual report shows the denomination is losing members and baptizing fewer people. The Reverend Fred Luther, outgoing president of the Southern Baptist Convention, thinks old-time methods to spread the gospel have met a culture that is younger, more diverse, and doesn't necessarily see the pew or even sin as a priority. Our society is not what it used to be, said Luther, who admitted he's discouraged by the reports. When I grew up, there was a challenge by parents in the home that our sons and daughters would be in church. It was a given. That day and time is gone. And just trying to see some numbers here. In the report, 1/4 of Southern Baptist churches reported 0 baptisms. 60% said they had baptized no youth, ages 12 to 17. 80% reported one or fewer young adult baptisms, ages 18 to 29. More death throes.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what it is. And this is a good thing because, religion continues to fall apart. And the Baptists, just like other groups, they just don't get it. And when you read this article, it's really clear that they just don't understand. They think that society has changed and it's just that going to church isn't a priority. They assume that people still believe in their Bronze Age fables. They're all out there looking for solutions on how to get things back to the way they used to be. And it's just not going to happen. I mean, the day when Christianity was king and everybody by default claimed to believe is over. We can expect to see even greater declines in church attendance and self-identification as religious. It's not because parents are used to force kids to go to church. It's because now people don't have to believe this stupid religious bullshit.
Oh, exactly. I agree with that 100%. The relevance of church is going away. I mean, and I think...
Well, but it's not just the relevance of church. It's the relevance of religion. And the Southern Baptists don't get that. They think, based on a lot of different things that I've read, and it's not just them, it's a lot of different church groups, so I don't want to just lay it on their doorstep, but they think that people are still religious. They're still Christian. They still believe. They just don't want to get up on Sunday morning to go to church. They're wrong. People are not going to church because they no longer believe in this religious bullshit. And in a recent poll that just came out within the last 2 months, 21% of Americans say that religion is not at all important to them. At all. Not that, they're not as religious, not that they're spiritual, but they don't give shit one about religion. Only 74% of Americans say they believe in any kind of God. That's down 8% just since 2009. According to Gallup, the U.S. is one of the top 10 nations to have experienced a notable decrease in religiosity since 2005. The bottom has fallen out of the religious market. It's going away. And it's not just church. It's not just reading the Bible. It's not just all this stuff. It's not people just saying, I don't need organized religion. These are people who are saying, I don't need religion at all. I don't need a belief in any God at all. And these groups don't get that.
Yeah.
And it's not just the Baptists. It's every religious group. We've seen this among the Catholics, which I'm kind of pissed off at the stupid Catholics again anyway, but we'll get to that in a little bit because we got more stories coming. But, it's not just them. And I'm looking even at some of the groups like the Episcopalians and some of the more liberal religious groups. They're falling apart too. It's not just the fundamentalists. It's everybody. I don't know about the Muslims. I haven't seen any studies about how the Muslims are faring in the U.S. because they're a smaller group, but I wouldn't be surprised if they're going away too. I think religion is just dead. It's dead in the water, and you've just got a bunch of corpses waiting to decompose and not understanding why it is they're decomposing.
Yeah. I mean, that's actually a good way to explain it. I mean, they're zombies. They're just, walking the earth,
but they're not looking for brains. Brains are the last thing they want.
Yeah. Yeah. Because, it's definitely.
Oh God, I can see that. Somebody needs to make a movie with just the shambling dead going, faith, faith. Oh God, that would be cool.
Yeah.
The praying dead.
Praying dead, yeah. Oh man. Yeah. Cause other than I've had my worries about what's happening. Are people abandoning religion to find, something else to fill that void, or just saying, I don't need this? I mean, I would love it to be people starting to say, well, this religion has no real meaning. It's hypocritical. It seems, whatever excuses has driven them out. Do I need to be sitting in a church for 1, 2, 3 hours every Sunday, Saturday, whatever your holy day is that you're supposed to be in church? Is this doing anything? Is this really making my life better? Because it's usually, I think that's probably the main driver is is this doing me good? Is what I'm doing making me the person that I am? And if it doesn't, because really it's just, you go into a church, you get a guy telling everybody why he's right and you're wrong. These various lessons and, how to be a good person. And of course, seeing these, preachers then hop into the black Mercedes-Benz and drive off to their, mansions. And maybe people are realizing, well, wait a minute, I'm going nowhere at my job. He's raking in the big bucks, I don't think it's the real, believing in God. I think it's believing in the dollar. Maybe that's what's being taught too I'm really hoping it is people realizing that religion is not playing as important a role in their lives as they thought it did. Maybe they're being disappointed. I've heard about people who, they sit around all day believing that God is going to take care of them. It's like, no, you got to get up off your ass, get a job, and then take care of yourself because God's not going to do it. You got people who, and especially, in being young people in this particular article, that means that the parents are not getting through, the churches aren't getting through to these kids. So maybe it is that these kids are getting educated, they're getting on the internet and finding shows like ours, I'm hoping, and realizing, the hypocrisy of religion, the insane aspects of the religion, Klingerschmidt, and those types, the crap that comes out of their mouths, and just realizing you got better things to do on a Saturday or Sunday morning than sitting in a church listening to someone preach to you.
Well, yeah, but I honestly think that we've gotten to the point where two things have happened. First, science has really explained enough. Now, we certainly don't know everything, but we've explained enough of the world around us where we don't have to rely on magic and wishful thinking to explain our place in the universe. This is the first time in human history that's actually been true, where we can say, hey, we know how we got here, we have the evidence to back it up, we know how the universe works, we know where it started, we have a pretty good idea where it's going, and there is no room for woo nonsense in any of that. The second part, I think we've actually gotten to the point where society as a whole is not requiring people to hold these beliefs, or at least pretend to hold these beliefs. So you don't have to go out and say, yeah, sure, I believe the same kind of ridiculous nonsense the rest of you do to be considered a valuable, useful member of society. You're not ostracized for saying, I think belief in a God is stupid. Probably that's not the case in places like Tennessee and Texas and Alabama, but in the real civilized world, that's the case. Where if you're an atheist, nobody thinks worse of you. They don't consider you to be any different than a Christian or a Muslim or a Jew or a Buddhist or whatever. You just don't believe. Nobody really gives a damn. It doesn't hurt your chances for employment. It doesn't hurt your chances for education. It doesn't hurt your chances to be, to get married or anything else like that. You can live a perfectly normal social life and not believe. So you don't have to play that religion card anymore. And I think that's really where religion is falling apart, because we don't need it anymore. And more people are realizing we just don't need it. It doesn't matter. It's not useful anymore. And the religious can't get that through their head.
Right. Yeah. Of course they can't, because I don't think they're smart enough to realize it, to be honest.
Well, I don't know that it has anything to do with intelligence. These people are so entirely deluded by their beliefs. And I think this is a problem with the irrational. And it's not just the religious, it's the conspiracy theorists and all the nuts that are out there. But these are people who identify themselves, they view their entire self-identity through the lens of their religion or their irrational beliefs. Alex Jones, if it wasn't for conspiracy nonsense, he wouldn't know what to think of himself or do with himself. Because as far as he's concerned, he's some great legend that exposes the conspiracies. You get rid of the conspiracies, he's nothing. You get rid of the religion, most of these people are nothing because they have nothing else in their lives. Their entire self-concept is wrapped around these beliefs. So the idea that they ever get rid of these beliefs, they can't do that because then they don't even exist. They stop existing as a conceptual entity.
Yeah. I don't know.
They have no self-worth outside of their beliefs. And that's kind of fucked up.
Yeah. That's sad, really. I mean, if your whole identity is based on fiction, are you really dealing with a real person? I mean, or are you just dealing with an automaton or something?
Yeah, well, I mean, this kind of goes into, and I mean, this is way off topic, and we should move on after this because, this is what we do.
Right.
But I recently took a survey it's by a PhD student for something, and it was on role playing, specifically on MMOs, but I guess it could do anything, and how people relate to their avatars. And I got into a discussion with this guy, and he says he's gotten a lot of people who personally identify with their avatars because they don't have a self-concept. They have to imagine themselves to be this character on screen because they can't understand that they're a distinct individual, and these people get delusional and start thinking that they really are this guy in chainmail on screen.
Yeah.
And that's a serious psychological problem. And I think there's a lot of serious psychological problems in religion.
Yeah. I mean, I knew this one guy. I mean, he read all the Edgar Rice Burroughs, John Carter of Mars books. And he would actually literally in school, he'd be speaking Martian from the language in the books. And at first I thought it was funny, like he was just doing that joke thing, but he kept doing it and he kept doing it. And I'm like, oh, wait a minute. This guy's got issues. This guy's got a problem. I don't know if he can tell the difference between Earth and Mars. And, when I heard that, when I knew this guy, his only dream was to be a clerk in a grocery store because they made big money. They were union and they got to pay $9 an hour or something. This was back in the 80s, which I guess was kind of big money. It's like, you don't want to go to college, get an educate, whatever, cause I thought he was a smart guy, he seemed to be okay, but, no, his dream was to be a clerk, a clerk in a grocery store, and it was maybe about 10 years later, he was still a clerk in a grocery store making whatever the union wage was at the time. And, I had come back from a business trip in New York, and I think my brother, he had a decent job as an accountant. He was out of the Air Force, had an accounting job, and we ran into this guy, and we just started laughing. It's like he's living his dream, making sure that the potatoes were nicely organized on the table. Again, this is one of those early memories. It's like, you know what? You've got to work for what you want. I mean, you have to be somewhat ambitious. You got to be curious. You got to be, interested. There's things you have to do to get ahead in this world. Because, I mean, yeah, you can happily sit back and let your God dictate how you live your life. You can, don't have to do any intellectual work if you can get a job stocking shelves in a grocery store. Either life could be easy or life is hard, but the rewards are tenfold, 100-fold if you strike out on your own. Get your education. Question. Ask questions. Do your own research. Do whatever. And, I mean, if you want everything handed to you and everything in a perfect package, yeah, okay, go to church. Let the pastor tell you what you need to think. Work your dead-end job and be fat, dumb, and happy. I mean, I don't want to live that way.
Yeah. Well, I mean, way back in the past, and I'm talking 25, 30 years ago, and anybody who's read my blog knows I've talked a little bit about this, but I used to be involved, tangentially at least, with anthropomorphic fandom, the furries, back before they became a bunch of sick pervert fucks. But there were, and I'm sure there still are today, people who are utterly deluded who think that they are actually furry animals in a human skin. And there was this one guy I remember who was absolutely convinced that he was, in fact, an ancient red dragon. And the only reason nobody could see him that way was because our primitive human minds simply could not comprehend the grandeur of his giant dragon form. I mean, I would sit there and I would go, dude, you're in a 10 by 10 room. How did you get through the door as a fucking 300-foot long red dragon? I don't know. You know, I mean, these people, their delusions completely fall apart. But there are people out there who are just like that. And it's the same damn people who are out there going, yeah, I'm talking to Jesus. Or I'm receiving alien transmissions from the graves. Or whatever. I mean, these are people with serious psychological issues. And because we are still living in a society where religion gets a pass, that Red Dragon guy, if he went out and told a psychologist that, he'd end up in a rubber room. And he probably should be. But if somebody said the same damn thing about Jesus, he'd get a pat on the back because we give religion a pass.
Yeah.
We gotta stop that shit.
Yeah. Or at least get our priorities straight, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry, but if you have all these bizarre beliefs about the supernatural and all this other crap, you are fucking out of your mind. And we need to treat you that way. And we need to put you in one of those nice white robes, the tie in the back. Put you in a rubber room and let you bounce around for a while.
Yeah.
Because you need help.
Definitely. Or some type of attitude adjustment.
Yeah, but speaking of people who need help, let's move on. The couple who shot 2 police officers and a woman in Las Vegas recently were crazy. Not only because they went around shooting people, but as social media postings reveal, they were also right-wing conspiracy nuts with a death wish. Jared and Amanda Miller posted their concerns over chemtrails, gun control laws, and the treatment of rancher Cliven Bundy. And of course, Jared is known to have posted on Alex Jones's InfoWars site. Yay! And that doesn't make him any brighter. Plus the fact he was a member of the radical anti-gay Christian group Alliance Defending Freedom and was involved in Operation American Spring that was started by an Alabama Christian militiaman. Yay! More crazy fucks.
When I saw this story popping up and I started reading, and I'm like, and actually some of the other stories that have been popping up on this, especially Alex Jones saying that this was all fake.
Of course, it's one of his buddies.
Yeah, as this false flag, it was supposed to be I even seen some bloggers saying that this was a false flag perpetrated by Alex Jones because the guy in classic conspiracy talk. I mean, this guy was it was a satire. And saying this guy, I mean, there's a photo of this guy dressed up as Joker from the Batman movies. And that seems to be that's one of Alex Jones's memes, I guess, one of that he produces. And, this weird connection, that he makes these, I wish I could remember where I read it and who I'm talking about because it was definitely satire. I mean, it was from a kind of a left-wing, kind of place and talking about how, this guy, how did he do it too? Because it was so wonderfully, all these weird connections, all you'll see in this conspiracy. This guy was married in Indiana. He made a stopover in Austin to pay homage because that's where, Alex Jones resides and does his show from, and then they stop to support Bundy. They decide to go to Las Vegas to Reed's district to pick 2 cops out to shoot. I'm butchering this. And this is all staged by Alex Jones to make it look like he was responsible for making this guy do this stuff. And I'm like, I mean, it was funny. I thought it was, but there's all sorts of stuff coming out on this guy. And, the fact of the matter is this guy's a nut. I think again from this article that MK Ultra or the chemtrails triggered his MK Ultra chip that told him to go and do all this stuff. And it was a funny crazy. And, but this guy was this classical, he's bought into anything that Alex Jones says. Every picture, everything I've read news-wise it just screamed Alex Jones. Alex Jones is claiming that this shooting never happened, that this is all make-believe. The cops are still alive. These 2 are still alive, probably living. Again, the joke was they went to Austin. They're living with Alex Jones in his mansion, laughing it up that they pulled a fast one over the government. And pretty much every shooting since, I want to say it started with, Sandy Hook, but I think he then retrograde and Columbine was a false flag, all that kind of stuff, and may have been faked.
Oh yeah, 9/11 was a false flag, and the Twin Towers are still there. Yeah. You just can't see them because they're covered by magical alien space rays.
Hologram. It's a hologram.
It's a hologram. Yeah.
It's all been. Yeah, the government has this hologram technology. You didn't know that?
Oh yeah, no, I must have missed that one.
Yeah. I just found that out a few weeks ago. But try to stay.
But hey, you better be quiet about that. They're going to come and abduct you and take you to Area 52. Since Area 51 has been found, now they've got a different area.
Yeah. Well, see, I'm a paid shill, so.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
Yeah. We're both actually both paid shills. I mean, that's why we can talk freely and make fun of these people and don't go to jail or to the FEMA camps because we're on big pharma, big gun, big whatever, payrolls. So.
Hey, Jim, we haven't gotten our checks for this week. Can you make sure those get out to us, please?
Yeah, I'm kind of overdrawn. Like, I can certainly use the cash right now.
What kind of douchebaggery be this?
Oh, God.
Oh, well, no, speaking of that, and this is completely out of there. Does that piss the crap out of you when your credit card company decides, well, hell, you're making a big purchase. We're going to shut down your credit card for no fucking reason?
I haven't had that happen lately.
Happened to me yesterday. We went out and we bought like a $500 thing, and like our card was coming back declined. And we're like, what the fuck is it? There's lots of money in there. So we called them and they're going, oh, well, you're just making a big purchase, so we shut it down. Just in case. It's like, turn it back on, you idiot. Fuck you.
I've had that happen where it actually went through, but any purchase afterwards didn't go through.
Yeah. Oh, no, we had that happen once, where we were at a convention and we were making a couple of purchases. And I mean, these are vendors who are coming from all over the country. So they had they were paying on their phones, which were registered in other areas of the country. So I'd make a purchase from one guy. And then I go to the next guy who may, his phone may be from Pennsylvania or something, and he'd swipe it and it would get declined. And we'd call and they're going, well, we showed that 3 minutes ago you made a purchase in California and now you're trying to make a purchase in Pennsylvania. No. Dumbass. Welcome to technology. That's not how this shit works anymore. I mean, I know you're trying to protect us and all, but your protection is being obnoxious. Let's try to fix that, okay?
Yeah. Well, I'm trying to remember. I think I bought something. I went to a gas station and I filled up and I went inside with the credit card and the card was declined and, I went and made a quick call. Oh yeah, we see that, you made a $300, $400 purchase and then you're buying 50, just confirm that we'll let it go through. I think I had that once. I should really look at the numbers, but I've been buying a lot of stuff off of Amazon. I mean, equipment, some hobby stuff, I'm spending, I just bought some drafting equipment, not too long ago. God, I've had to have spent over $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 with Amazon and they don't freak out over that. I don't know.
Yeah, it's weird because maybe a month or two ago, I made a big Amazon purchase. It was, $400 to $500 range. Didn't say a thing about that. Same card. I don't know. I guess it's selective.
Yeah.
And we're completely off topic.
Yes.
Well, anyway, getting back to this, I think it's really funny how many of the right-wing crazies are desperately trying to distance themselves from these two lunatics.
That's a funny thing. Along that lines, again, I think it was a blog post somewhere and I was reading it and, this guy was going to be on Above Top Secret. It's like it's a podcast.
Yeah, I know what it is.
Yeah. For the listeners, I guess it's a crazy site that, they do the kind of like a coast to coast, with George Norrie. They talk about all sorts of stuff and he was waiting in the wings to go on the show. And it was actually in a commercial break or whatever they were doing. There was a break. And one of the conspiracy guys there was saying, I really wish Alex Jones would shut up. He's making us all look bad. And I thought, and when I read that, I go, it would be wonderful if there was a there won't be. I'm sure there won't be, because all these guys rely on each other. Alex Jones relies on all the crazy conspiracies out there because they all plagiarize from each other. I mean, I wish I had the time and the computing power to collect these articles, and I will bet you that 90% of the articles you'll see are been stolen from someone else and just either put a different name on it, or they leave the person name in it, but they add an extra tier of names or whatever. Because I found some neat articles, and this is from before the First or Second World War. And there were, again, these guys would share articles. John T. Flynn would share articles, and Father Charles Coughlin. These were two big anti-war, anti-Roosevelt. They're not like a modern conspiracy theorist, but they were for that day. And then there were it's the guy from the Communist Party, Browder. There would be all these writers. There was actually articles, Nazi Germany and England were flooding the United States with articles, and these guys would take them and share them, and they pass them back and forth, and they would either use the byline, or they would retain the author's name, or they would just put their own name to it, and just passing these articles around, and to keep the illusion that all these people are writing about, the serious stuff that was happening in the late 1930s. The same things happen each day. And people like this, these fucktards, they buy into it. They bought in hook, line, and sinker, all this stuff, which is all made up. It's all bullshit. It's the stories that they steal from each other, and they put it up as their own to make it look like there's more volume of talk on it. I mean, I would love to be able to sit down maybe and go through these sites, but I know for a fact that Alex Jones he'll get one of his ghostwriters, Paul Watson. There's a couple other guys. They would write an article on InfoWars. That's where this guy was getting a lot of this information from, and then Russian television would take that article, keep the name, and publish it. Then these I call them news aggregators, because they don't seem to be like real newspapers, though they look like real newspapers. But they grab stories if you got the right keywords. If it says India whatever in the thing, then there's a Times of India grabs it, and they'll publish it. And then it gets around. Sometimes it'll pop up on CNN accidentally, or Fox might pick up on it. And then next thing you know, Alex Jones could say, well, see, the mainstream news, Fox News is saying, this is real. But he doesn't tell you that the guy that wrote it was one of his people who put that article out in the first place. It's a real bullshit way of doing things. And the guy is a cheat and a liar, and he's a scumbag. And, then you get the retards like this who think that the world's fucked up. That's why I try to stay the optimist. I don't want to be feeding these guys. These guys think the world is fucked, and then they buy into, in these two people's cases, I mean, they bought into the conspiracy theorists. I mean, they may have already bought into the religious, their preacher may have already started them on that path, that everything's satanic, whatever. That may have been what got them started, but guys like Jones, and there's, George Norrie, Jeff Renz, he does a radio program, Glenn Beck, he's been doing that. Sometimes even Rush Limbaugh gets into it a little bit. Very, very little. I think he tries to avoid a lot of the crazy stuff. He just makes up his own crazy shit.
Yeah. He doesn't steal it from other people.
Right. Yeah, he's actually kind of honest about his bullshit. And these two idiots buy into it, and they shoot two policemen trying to have, dinner or lunch or whatever they were trying to have at the time they were shot. And then they go off, they shoot somebody in a parking lot, and they kill themselves. Then they get turned into a conspiracy theory that this was all fake. They should have been on something. They should have been under some type of psychological care. They may have been on Prozac or, whatever the drug of choice. And then that becomes part of the conspiracy that they've been drugged up, and, that this is the aftermath of that. It's not the guns that is the problem. It's the drugs they were taking. It really isn't the gun problem. It's the person problem. These were people that they either needed help and couldn't get it, or they had help, got the wrong kind, or they never whatever the deal is, and this is what we get.
Well, they had their heads filled with a bunch of stupid bullshit. That's the problem.
Well, that's part of the problem.
And I'm sure that if you look at all of these conspiracy people, they're all going to find some way to explain it where, well, it wasn't really their problem. It wasn't the conspiracy beliefs that were the problem. It was, oh no, the conspiracy got them or something like that. Right. But they're all going to try to distance themselves from what happened. Just like the religious, they'll try to distance themselves from people who shoot up abortion clinics and all the rest of that. Even though in reality, we know they really support what they did. They're going to be out there in public going, oh no, these people did things completely wrong. We don't support them at all. Yeah, they do.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they do. Well, let's go ahead and on that note, move on to our last story.
The bodies of 800 babies have been discovered buried in a septic tank in Ireland. The grisly discovery was made at a home for unwed mothers in Yam, located in Galloway County. St. Mary's Mother and Baby Home was operated by Bon Secours nuns between the years of 1925 and 1961. An examination of the bodies show most of the children died of disease and malnutrition. Others perished from diseases such as measles, pneumonia, and tuberculosis. The dead children were buried in simple shrouds with no coffin or tombstone to mark their final resting place. Today, the mass grave is surrounded by a housing unit, and due to the nature of the discovery, authorities may order the site to be exhumed. A source close to the investigation said, quote, God knows who else is in the grave. It's been lying there for years, and no one knows the full extent or total of bodies down there.
Yeah, this is, again, from the Washington Post. This is actually a very sad, this is a story, it has to be said. Bodies of 800 babies, long dead, found in a septic tank at a former Irish home for unwed mothers. In a town in Western Ireland, where the castle ruins pepper green landscapes, there's a 6-foot stone wall that once surrounded a place called the Home. Between 1925 and 1961, thousands of fallen women and their illegitimate children passed through the home run by the Bon Secours nuns in Tuam, whatever. Many of the women, after paying a penance of indentured servitude for their out-of-wedlock pregnancy, left the home for work and lives in other parts of Ireland and beyond. But some of their children were not so fortunate. More than 5 decades after the home was closed and destroyed, where a housing development and children's playground now stands, what happened to nearly 800 of those abandoned children has perhaps now emerged. Their bodies were piled up in a massive septic tank, sitting in the back of the structure and forgotten, with neither a gravestone nor coffins. The bones are still there. Local historian Catherine Corliss, who uncovered the origins of the mass grave in a batch of never-before-released documents, told the Washington Post in his phone interview, the children who died in the home, this was them. The grim findings, which are being reviewed by police, provide a glimpse into a particularly dark time for unmarried pregnant women in Ireland, where societal and religious mores stigmatized them. When the daughters became pregnant, they were ostracized completely. Families would be afraid of neighbors finding out because to get pregnant out of marriage is the worst thing on earth. So the idea was that they would go into the building. I've read different stories. They worked there for 2 years, usually with little or no pay. Then they'd be shipped out to homes in Ireland. The babies, again, were generally, basically, it sounds like all these children were starved to death, or at least abused.
Well, there was a lot that died of malnutrition, that died of disease, etc.
Right.
I mean, it was the early 20s and 30s, and especially in that part of the world, that kind of thing was common. So I don't want to think that the Catholics were out there killing the kids. That's not the case.
Well, they certainly didn't make a lot of effort to keep them alive, let's put it that way, because they were being paid to keep these women and paid to take care of the kids. To have them die in their care, 800 over a period of, I was talking 20. I saw numbers like from 1921, but this here they're saying 25 to 60, 61, almost 50 years. 800 kids died in this building. there's something a lot more to this story than just the time. It was the times. I'm sorry, but
oh yeah, but it's. I don't think that if you looked at a lot of different places around the world, you wouldn't see anything too much different. Now, granted, most places are not going to be throwing these corpses in the septic tank, but infant mortality under those circumstances and in those times was pretty high anyway. I honestly don't want to be saying that these Catholic nuns were out there beating these kids over the head with a brick to kill them and throw them in, I don't want anybody to think that.
No. I don't believe that, but they were starved to death, and they died of complications from starvation. I mean, dysentery, they weren't taken care of. It was really a terrible place to be.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, you're right. I don't know really what went on in that building, but unceremoniously dumping them into a sewer or into a septic tank, 800 bodies. Actually, I think the numbers actually was 780 some, I think 789, I think the actual number that they know about. And this is going on from till 1961. So this is not, a 20s or a 30s health thing. I mean, we're talking up to 1961, this was going on, and no one gave a shit.
Yeah. Well, we just keep seeing these kind of stories of Catholic abuse and hypocrisy coming out, especially out of Ireland lately. I don't know if we talked about this story on the show, but I did one where there was a girls' home in Ireland where they were beating them, molesting these girls, telling them if they told anybody they were going to be killed, separating them from their families, separating them from their siblings and all this other stuff, forcing them to eat vomit. And these are fucking Catholic nuns. And I mean, let's be honest, people who were around in the 50s and 60s, we've already talked about the kind of abuses that Catholic nuns were guilty of back then. I'm hoping that they've cleaned up their act by now, but I don't know for sure. But it's really sad that I keep seeing Christians, especially Catholics, desperately trying to excuse Catholicism by shifting the blame somewhere else. And this comes up on my blog right now where there's a guy named Roger who's a troll, but he spends an awful lot of his time every time I talk about something that the Catholics do wrong, sex abuse, priests, whatever. He goes, oh, well, somebody else abuse, there are people who are not Catholic priests who abuse kids. Therefore, we can't blame Catholicism. Well, yeah, but none of these other places are purposely hiding these pedophile priests and reassigning them so that they can molest other kids. And even if everybody else did it, that doesn't excuse the Catholics.
If you got a Catholic priest molesting a boy, if you got a Catholic nun starving children, it's pretty clear cut. This is a unwritten rule or whatever. This was systemic. This is something within the church. This was accepted practice, that it was okay. Actually, I'd like to save this article for next week, but there's a priest in a deposition saying, well, we didn't know that what the guy did was wrong. There's like this belief, that there was this thing within the Catholic Church. And I hate to put a, blanket across the whole church, but it's definitely, something that has been, it's not isolated. I mean, if it was isolated, if this was just one building in, one church in Ireland, or this was like just Los Angeles and New York and maybe Chicago where the molesting was going on. If it was one place, then it's like, okay, it was just a group that was out of control. They were bad leadership, bad people, evil people working these things. But this is across the board. It is, every town in the United States has been touched by the pedophile priests. I think the only towns that hasn't been touched is because there's no Catholics there.
Or they just haven't gotten caught yet.
And it's not even the United States. This has been happening in Germany, I guess Italy, and it's been thousands of years that the Vatican and the abuses they did to people. This isn't something, it's like nothing, it's not isolated. It's not, one bad apple, type of thing. This is like an entire, organization built to molest boys and girls. I think even molested children. They've, murdered them. They've starved them. They've done all these terrible things. They tortured. If you ever listen to a George Carlin when he talks about school days in in New York, the Sister Mary, whatever, with the iron or the steel ruler across the hand. It's like, that was a daily thing for, Catholic school. I think I mentioned about my friend he was left-handed, and the nun kept smashing every time he tried to write with his left hand, the nun would smash it. And, eventually he was tortured into writing right-handed because left-handed was evil or whatever the deal was. She was fixing him. It's like this twisted, totally messed up organization, and it's been going on. How can anybody with a conscience say that you're picking on him? I mean, especially your troll friend. I mean, that guy is just in denial. I mean, the reality is there. I mean, the history is there. The evidence. Yeah, because we're not talking about accusations. I mean, these guys have been convicted. The ones that they've been able to catch and get into a courtroom, they've been convicted. And it's not make-believe. This is a real thing.
Yeah, well, they just want to believe that something else is responsible, not their religion. And I guess it's too late to hold anybody legally responsible for anything in this particular case. But once again, it really makes me wonder how the Catholic Church, the supposed moral bastion that thinks it is, could ever have done these things and think it was part of some higher moral calling. How do you defend that and say, hey, our God gave us these morals, but look at what all of our people are doing. I don't get that shit at all. How do you defend that? Roger would say, probably, since I would never invite the douchebag on the show, but, he would say something along the lines of, well, it wasn't the church, it wasn't the teachings, it wasn't anything else. It's just a bunch of evil people who just so happen to be part of the church and part of the religion. But it's not, because the Catholic Church as an organization hides these people. It facilitates these things. And you cannot tell me that over 40 or 45 years at this particular home, nobody ever walked in there. They never had an inspection by any archbishop or whatever who never walked through there and went, holy shit, what the fuck are you people doing? I mean, that never happened.
Yeah. I mean, there was the government walked in. 1944, local health board described the children living at the home as emaciated, pot-bellied, fragile, and with flesh hanging loosely on limbs. I mean, the government went in there, checked it out.
Well, fuck, man, the government should have stopped it, but I'm willing to bet you, and this is especially true in Ireland, but the government was the church.
You're talking Ireland Catholic. I mean, if you weren't Catholic, you were probably, shot at, but, you were ostracized if you weren't even Catholic. So it's more than likely, yeah, they wrote the report, but, who's going to go turn in your own people? So, yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, I've talked about, there was a murder case, and this is a long, long time ago on the show that we talked about it, but there was a murder case where a Catholic priest, they had him dead to fucking rights. They had all the evidence. They had proof that he murdered somebody after molesting them or raping them or whatever. I don't remember the exact details, but they could not bring him to trial. And they couldn't because all of the police were Catholic and they absolutely refused to bring him up on charges. And they could not find a jury because they were all Catholic, and they could not find a jury who said we would be willing to convict this guy if the evidence showed it. The guy got away with murder because nobody would go against the church. Fuck religion, this kind of shit is just ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, I don't think I ever had to experience that being Catholic, but, I mean, it's definitely made me feel better that, I'm not Catholic or I'm not practicing anymore, because it's just this whole mentality within the church and what I've seen since, it's just, I mean, it seems so counter to, I mean, being a kid, I wasn't fully immersed, I guess, like a lot of kids were. So I had a chance to go in a little bit, come out, think about what was put in my head, get re-immersed again. It wasn't day after day going to, because to be a good Catholic, well, first you had to have a big family, and then you had to send them to Catholic school. And, my dad couldn't afford, a private education, so we got the public schools, but we still had Sunday schools. And, so you get a little bit in there, but then you get out and you could think, you got to got like a real education. And, so that's probably why I never got fully integrated into that whole Catholic thing. And, when I started realizing things like, morality and what, the church and really all the churches, they try to say the same thing, it's always been the 10 Commandments, thou shalt not, whatever. And, but then when, you see what the church has done, when you learned about the history of the churches, or you see you see the church on the news and the scandals that they've been involved with, even people outside the church who complain about, these damn Catholics, they do this and that, whatever. So you kind of, start realizing, and I think what they want you to believe is that being religious gives you a moral high ground, where in fact, they're like the worst people you should be learning your morals from, because, human life is worthless. As long as your life is dedicated to the church, you're good. If your life isn't, then you are burning in hell and, you're a piece of shit. And that's the way they treat you. And it just floors me that people, even when the evidence is staring them straight in the face, that they could still turn around and say, well, it's not the church's fault. No, the church is responsible. They're the overseeing organization of all these churches. They should have been aware. I mean, if they weren't aware, I don't see a problem, but they were aware in many cases.
Well, they should have been aware.
Yeah, but they ended up being aware. Clearly, through everything that's happened up to this point, these cases have come up to the higher and higher levels in the church, and they still didn't do anything about it. And, that's just, it's really like a mafia. It's a organized crime syndicate. That's all it is. Right. And they could go from town to town, person to person, and not have to worry about it because everybody's in their pocket. And that is a criminal organization. And why do we allow it? And,
because we give religion a pass, and hopefully that's not going to last too much longer. This is just ridiculous.
Right. I hope not. And certainly that's why this story, I think, should, ring true, that this is what the church has done. I hope they're not doing it still, but you never know. If, this is Ireland. You still got places like Mexico, and where there's very little questioning of the church. And I don't know what their views on unwed pregnancy and all that kind of stuff. We might be in store for more horrors.
Oh yeah. There are never an end to the horrors that come out of religion.
Right.
Well, now I'm depressed.
Yeah.
I think we should give up for the week before we,
slit our wrists.
Yeah. Come on, we need to do another religious horror show week,
Yeah.
Yeah, no, we need to get like 5 other people on the show, and then we can all just like commit group suicide or something.
That might be a little creepy.
Yeah, that might be really creepy. I don't know.
Yeah. Just as long as we don't have to, wear, Nike tennis shoes and white outfits and, have to be castrated before we commit suicide.
Yeah, let's not go there.
Yeah, let's not do that.
Yeah, well, we'd have to wait until Haley's comic come back, and that's going to be a while, so we're safe.
Okay, cool.
All right, so we'll go ahead and wrap up for the week. Thanks for listening, and by all means, if you have something you want us to tackle, let us know. You can comment on our website at report.jdragononline.com. You can send us email at report@jdragononline.com. You can get us on Facebook, Google+, Twitter, Tumblr, and in fact, pretty much everywhere else. We're available to listen on our website, on Stitcher Radio, on iTunes, and now on Player FM, so you don't have to go with iTunes anymore. You actually have an Android app you can use. Come back in another week and tell your friends. We can't grow without you, our listeners, and until then, please take care and stay the fuck away from the Catholics.
Please. Good night.
Good night. You've been listening to the Bitchspot Report podcast with your hosts, Cephas and Mike. You can follow us on Twitter respectively at Bitchspot1 or at JDRipper1962. Please visit our website at report.jdragononline.com. We're on Facebook at facebook.com/The Bitchspot Report. We're also on Google+, iTunes, and YouTube. Those links are on our website. We'd love to hear from you. You can reach us via email at report@jdragononline.com. Comments, ideas, and suggestions are always welcome. We'll be back next week with another fun and fact-filled episode. Please tune in again.